This is the Sandman podcast on TV Podcast Industries. We're back for the Sandman Season 2, Chapter 10, Long Live the King.
You left your realm, Dream King. This castle is ours now, to do with what we will. You and yours are no longer safe here.
Hello, Lyta Hall.
We are not Lyta Hall.
We are more than Lyta Hall.
You hurt my gatekeeper.
You killed my son.
You have been deceived by those that would use you to achieve their own ends.
Daniel?
That is not Daniel. Not anymore.
Let me go. Please.
Our work is not yet done, my dear.
That's my baby. That's Daniel.
Partly, yes.
He isn't dead.
No, he is not.
But he is no longer alive.
Welcome back, fellow dreamers, to TV Podcast Industries for our return to the Dreaming and the Sandman Season 2, Chapter 10, Long Live the King. I am one of your hosts, Derek.
And I am one of your other hosts, John. Welcome back, fellow dreamers. Long time no see.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Apologies for our delays with the final installments of The Sandman. We've been looking at Marvel Zombies. We've been doing Gen V in the Boys universe, as well as a whole host of other things. So the Sandman got slightly interrupted for us, but we are back now to discuss episode 10, Long Live the King. Yes, indeed. The king is dead.
Yes, long live the king. Exactly. Sorry about the delay, and thanks so much to those of you that reached out. There's a few comments in our Facebook group, people wondering where it's gone. Will we ever get back to the Sandman? And a couple of emails that came in as well. But thank you so much for your patience. We know it's been a very long time. This was partly, as we said before, to do with the fact that it was all dropped over while we were away on Netflix, and there was so much other stuff that we had to cover that was coming out weekly, which tends to get about 10 times the listenership to something that gets dropped and we look back on. So we tend to have to focus on things that come out weekly, like Gen V. So thank you so much for your patience. We are back. We're not going to dwell on that for too much longer because we will be closing out Sandman over the next 2 weeks. So
Exactly.
Time to get back to our favourite cast of the Dreaming.
Yes, I think we should get into our spoiler-filled discussion. For those who maybe are picking us up for the first time, please remember to pop on over to our website at tvpodcastindustries.com, where you can subscribe to the podcast on any dreamlike or nightmarish podcast player of your choice.
Yeah, especially if you want to pick up some stuff that we have been talking about in the interim between the Sandman and all the other shows that we've been covering.
Yes,
all
indeed.
available over there. Yeah.
And of course, we do like to get your thoughts, theories, observations, even on our Interrupted Sandman podcast. So please send in your emails on any of the episodes of Sandman to feedback at tvpodcastindustries.com or over on our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries. But without further a catnap, Derek, who gave us what, where, when, and how for episode 10 of The Sandman, Long Live the King?
Well, the executive producers of the show are Alan Heinberg, Jamie Charles, and David S. Gore. Jamie Charles, the director of each of the episodes for season 2 of The Sandman. And this episode, the teleplay, was written for it by Marina Marlens, who's been an assistant to the executive producers for the entire seasons for The Sandman season 2. But this is our first credit for this episode. A pretty big episode to get your first writing credit. So I'm guessing Neil Gaiman may have been the other writer on this, but as his credits have been removed from the show, I would suggest this is probably one of the episodes he wrote.
Okay, excellent. But good to have someone who's, been involved with the show coming in to deal with the teleplay alongside, we're guessing, Neil Gaiman.
Yeah, exactly. But John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for the 10th episode of season 2 of The Sandman, Long Live the King?
Sure. As they continue their path of destruction through the dreaming, the Furies and their avatar, Lyta Hall, kill Abel and Merv Pumpkinhead, and also try to kill Dream's Raven Matthew, but he escapes to Lucienne, Cain, Corinthian and Daniel in the throne room. Morpheus comes back to his realm and momentarily breaks the hold of the Kindly Ones on Lyta after she sees that her son Daniel is alive, but the Kindly Ones refuse to free her, saying they aren't here to retrieve Daniel, they are here for vengeance. To save his realm, Morpheus goes to the waking world to kill Lyta Hall, but Mad Hetty has put protections around Lyta to prevent this. She tells Morpheus that Daniel won't be happy with him if he kills his mother, and that's the last thing he needs. In the land of Fairy, Nula makes peace with Cluracan and Titania, and is allowed to return to the dreaming. With little other option, Morpheus tells everyone he is going to the furthest edge of the dreaming and has a tearful goodbye with his friends, thanking them for everything that they've done to help his growth. Dream's sister Death arrives and he sends Matthew to bring her to him. Death and Morpheus talk for some time, and finally Morpheus takes her hand to accept his death and goes with her. At the same moment, the Kindly Ones vanish, and Nula takes Lyta Hall's head in the dreaming. Lyta wakes up in the waking world, and Daniel, suddenly an adult as the new dream, starts to repair the realm, and as Delirium is reunited with her dog Barnabas, she realises her brother Morpheus is gone.
Well, John, you've been watching along, having not read the comic books. Did you think this is how the tale would end?
No, actually, I thought he would wriggle out of it. But I think this episode, as well as episode 11, I think has a really nice message to say, 100%. Ultimately, about death, really. Yeah, so I think it's really, really beautiful. So I absolutely enjoyed how this ended up.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And was quite pleased to see it. And I think over these two kind of final episodes, there is that meta story or point being made about writing as well, in a sense, by a writer.
Yeah.
So it's really good. I must say I really enjoyed how this episode went and how it plays out.
Absolutely. And I will say that's probably a big trait of Neil Gaiman's as well. You know, the stories that are his best stories, things like American Gods or Anansi Boys or The Graveyard Book or of course The Sandman itself tend to be stories about storytelling. In a way, it's almost him telling his process out loud to the audience, which makes him so detailed and so interesting to read. So I'm glad it's transferred so well into the series in these final episodes.
It does also have one of my best lines in quite some time from Nula the Fairy, as she says to Cluracan, as she wants to leave the land of Fairy, "I'll have you remove this glamour and give me back my face." So yes, really good.
Absolutely. Yes, I think I mentioned before that that she does look, when she's made up, does look very like an Irish dancer. So I was once again struck at how close that is when you see her fully made up with her hair high and her
or like those pageantry things,
exactly,
like you see in Louisiana, where it's it's
pretty much the same thing, except Irish dancing is usually reserved for a small group of people in Ireland, so they'd be very used to that. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Shall we get into our top moments from the episode?
Absolutely, yeah. Let's start with Morpheus and what he is aiming to do. So he is looking to kill Lyta in the waking world. The episode starts out with the continuation, I suppose, of the attack by the Kindly Ones on their avatar, now Lyta Hall, being used by them to kill anyone in her way, which starts off with her killing Abel. And I love this moment of his death, because we've seen, and if you've read the comic books, actually, you've seen Abel die at the hands of Cain over and over and over again, sometimes for not bringing him a cup of tea, sometimes for much bigger reasons. But he always comes back. And in this moment when he's being faced with true death at the hands of Lyta. She's aiming the sword towards him, and he says, "But you don't even love me, you don't even know me." And that's part of the deal that there is between these brothers who are one brother who murders the other brother. The deal is, because he loves him, he can kill him, and Abel will come back from the dead. So he's actually facing his true death and knows it at the hands of Lyta. So I thought that was a really interesting little touch that you have in there, that line, which more speaks to the bigger, wider story of those characters in the comics. So.
Yeah, and I do like it kind of foreshadows the notion that she's not entirely transfixed or under the spell, or the mindless avatar of the Furies, as she kind of hesitates or doubts the retrieval of the sword from Abel's body. But ultimately as well, that they then move on to the next. So it is a bit like the Grim Reaper with the scythe making its way through the dreaming as they move on to poor old Merv Pumpkinhead, who I can only ever say it like that.
No, there's a long-standing joke between myself and John. There's an old, I think it was 80s or 70s horror movie called Pumpkinhead, that I always thought would be hilarious to set in Liverpool because of how they pronounce Pumpkinhead. It'd be kind of like the way that they brought up to date the movie Candyman, and brought that to a much more recent history. If you brought Pumpkinhead to Liverpool, it would just be very good fun.
Absolutely.
Why not?
It would be, dare I say it, Candyman as well. In a Scouse accent would be pretty good as well.
Would too, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Candyman, Candyman, Candyman.
He's coming in there, John.
Oh no.
But that is an aside. We do have action hero Merv Pumpkinhead here with his massive gun. I do love when the kindly ones are looking over at him going, "What the hell are you?" And he goes, "I'm a pumpkin with a shotgun." Your worst
With a
nightmare.
machine gun.
With a machine gun.
Yeah,
absolutely. Your worst nightmare.
Very cool, very cool. And I mean, then they're after Matthew, and as he sort of manages to escape, he does fly to Cain, Lucienne, and Corinthian, saying that they are laying waste to the dreaming.
He does, but I just thought it was really interesting when the kindly ones is the eldest of the kindly ones. It's when they're having that conversation, they're going, "Oh, that's Morpheus's bird. Oh, he wouldn't like it if we killed him." And the eldest one goes, "He wouldn't like it at all," with a little smile on her face. So they are relishing this moment of revenge, and it's really noticeable in that moment when they fire the bullets back and kill Merv Pumpkinhead, who's fired all the bullets at them. They send them all back, killing him, and then they want to take out Matthew. The youngest doesn't, because she fears what Morpheus will do. The middle one realizes the situation, and the eldest one really relishes wanting to take him out. So it's that thing of those characters. They're not always written the best way, but usually there should be some sense of a youthful, a middle-aged and an elderly version of their conversation when they're speaking to each other. And I think that's just one of those moments that stands out quite well to me.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, ultimately you have then Morpheus confronting Lyta Hall and the Furies at the gates of the dreaming, and he says, "You've been deceived by those who would use you to achieve their own ends." But all the time, I love the fact that on the doorstep there is this tug of war between the Fates and Morpheus of Lyta Hall. The Fates trying to keep her on mission. Your son now belongs to the Dream King. They kind of sort of temper the fact that Morpheus is saying he's still alive effectively. He tries to wake her up, but and momentarily frees her from the Fates. And you have this also then great moment where, unfortunately, by doing that, he's put them with exclusive access, in a sense, to these Furies who say, "We don't rescue, we revenge." When she says, "But he's alive, can we not just get my son back?" Exactly, and that's not their point, that's not their mission.
And again, we've seen this throughout the series. They say they can't take action. That's not what they do. When someone comes to them and asks them to take action, they will empower them to do effectively what the Furies want to do. They're not going to be able to do this, but they can have their avatar being the one taking out Morpheus, even though there's nothing to take revenge over. Morpheus never laid a hand on Daniel. That was what Puck did. That's what Loki did. He was given the boy back, and I guess that's the machinations behind the scenes, I suppose, is what got Daniel back into the realm of the dreaming. And he did originally say that he would come and take her son at some point in the future. So she does blame him for it. But seeing that Daniel is alive here in some form, almost breaks the spell, or almost breaks the connection, I suppose. But following this, Dream tells everybody else in the room there that he needs to go and take care of Lyta. He needs to go back into the world of the living and attend to Hippolyta Hall.
Well, that's it. Yeah. Yes, he says he needs to attend to Hippolyta Hall, and it's like Cain is. And what do you actually mean by attend? Which is ultimately to kill her.
Yeah.
As he says, any threat to the dreaming must be destroyed. And I like it here where he goes in all menacing, and I like the fact that good old Henrietta tempers him here. In part because, she has put up that physical protection ring with Hippolyta's lippy around her.
Yeah.
But, I think she tempers him. She says, it wasn't her who put you in this mess. It was you. That's why the fates are after you. It's because of the blood on your hands from killing another one of the Endless, your son. And, she says, we're all here for the same reason. We've all lost a child.
Yeah.
That the three of them, including Henrietta, but equally and more personally to this, is Hippolyta is. That's why she's here. And ultimately, that is why Morpheus is here doing what he's doing. And, effectively, she tempers him, persuades him not to kill her, because the last thing he needs is for Daniel to know that he killed his mother.
Exactly, yeah.
And so I love this sequence of events.
Me too.
And kind of just Henrietta's loyalty really to, in a sense, herself.
Yeah.
Like she says, well, I've always had a thing on the side with the fates. They ask me to do something and I do it,
This is why I've been alive for 250 years.
Yeah, they keep me in a wage, effectively, of
600 years.
long life.
Yeah.
While at the same time, I would do stuff for you for the same thing,
Yeah.
They have their own relationship. And in some respects, actually, Henrietta's relationship with them is very transactional, but I just kind of liked how it came across here.
Yeah.
She felt very sagey.
She absolutely did. I guess that's why you're calling her by her full name instead of calling her Mad Hetty.
Yeah.
Yeah. I absolutely love this moment. You're totally right. It's just a moment to stay the hand of Morpheus so she can explain to him why he shouldn't murder a human. It's that moment. You have already spilled blood. You don't need to spill any more blood. This is your fault, not hers. She is not responsible for what happened. All you're doing is putting down another symptom, effectively. So it is great that we have Hetty here doing this, and I love that her reappearance is this massive moment that makes Morpheus reconsider everything he's been thinking. So he's not a vengeful god, but he was about to take vengeance on the person that isn't responsible for everything that's happened. So, yeah, really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I thought that was a real good moment. I think the other thing that we should just quickly point out is, as I say, is Nula leaves Fairy to come to defend the dreaming. Because, again, I think there's another really nice little moment here between her and Chlorocan, where he's kind of saying he is nothing without her. He's kind of anxious for her because she is family after all. And, to everyone else, he goes, I'm nothing, but at least to you, I'm family. And it's kind of sweet, but then it also becomes kind of funny because of his own ego, where she says, well, you could come with me. And he goes, but then the both of us could die, and who would be here to remember you by?
Exactly.
And I just think that's the most perfect Chlorocan line ever. In fact, as I say, this passage of writing and just the little phrases that came out of both Nula and Chlorocan are just really special for me. And they're just almost like a little hint of kind of loveliness, soppiness, and comedy in a little faint sprinkling of magic comedy fairy dust in this kind of really quite weighty episode.
Yeah.
And actually, it made me even more kind of like enjoy Chlorokin as a character.
Yeah.
In this show throughout.
Yeah.
He is self-absorbed. He is an egomaniac, really. But nonetheless, Nuala is his sister, his family, and he likes the fact that she gives him attention.
Well, exactly.
To some degree,
yeah, I know.
But also that he appreciates that in that moment, and it's kind of sweet. And she does understand that,
yes,
because she smiles and she thanks him and so on.
Yeah, I don't think he's able to express anything more deeply than that. That he cares about her, because if she's not there, no one will care about him. I think even again, there's another nod to the storytelling thing. He says, I do all these stupid things. I drink too much. I sleep with the wrong person at exactly the wrong time, which creates these great stories, and that's what everybody wants to hear. But who will care about me when I do all those horrible things? Nobody. They just want to hear the stories, is what he says. So again, another storyteller in this world, explaining that thing of having to experience those horrible moments to come up with the great stories to entertain people may not be great for one's own soul, I suppose, would be almost the way he's saying it to her. But it is a really good moment. She does have, as she's leaving Fairy, she does say goodbye to Queen Titania. Finally, Queen Titania is on the right side, after her being the one that brought Morpheus out of the dreaming, allowing the kindly ones to come in and attack. She realizes there's no stopping Nuala, so gives her the sword. Gives her a sword to go.
I would say to ride into battle.
I was saying to John, this did kind of remind me of that moment in the Lord of the Rings with Éowyn, where her character has been pretending to be a man in the army, so she can ride in with the Rohirrim in the massive battle against the Witch King of Angmar. There's a whole prophecy that he can't be killed at the hands of a man, and she jumps out, rips off her helmet and goes, "I am no man." And there's that moment you kind of go, yeah, okay, that didn't really work, but look, I'll take it. It's an epic. It's fine. This moment where Nuala's saying goodbye to Queen Titania, and she says, "I will not allow you to ride into battle," and pause for about a millisecond and then goes, "Without my sword," or "without a sword," and gives her this massive sword to take into battle. It feels like it's part of a prophecy. Sometimes, because the show has been condensed as much as it is, they have to get from point A to point B. We know point B later on in the episode. This is really important that she has a massive sword in her hand. Nuala only does one other thing in this episode, so it was really important to get her from being at a party in Fairy with the glamour on to getting to being in the dreaming with that sword. So I'll allow it, but it did just have that moment where it did make me smile, thinking that doesn't really work together.
Yeah, well, it's almost trying to sort of eke out the fact that there's been that tension between them. So that, is this going to be a confrontation? But ultimately then she gives her a weapon to ride in to defend the dreaming. Exactly. And she has become an ally rather than an obstacle.
Yeah.
So, but I know exactly what you mean. It's kind of like, if there had been space here, I think that relationship would have been much better evolved.
Exactly.
I think over the course of the episode.
Just even a moment of her going, "Oh, I really made that a really bad decision by taking your necklace and calling Morpheus."
Yeah, but
here,
she's the queen as well.
Yeah.
So, the queen's never wrong.
True, very true. Maybe she just wasn't going to say that. Maybe they would never.
So she'll never say that. I don't think.
Just give her the sword, and everything's left unsaid. Maybe that's the way.
I guess so.
That's why I'm not a storyteller. But the rest of the episode really is dedicated to our next point, which is Dream accepts his fate. Once back in the land of the dreaming, after that conversation with Hetty, Dream tells the rest of his friends that he is going to go to the furthest part of the realm to meet with the Furies. I think this is a really emotional moment. There's a lot of moments over the next couple of episodes, which in any other show, if the show had gone on as long as it should, 4 or 5 seasons, these moments would mean probably even more. If you've read the comic books, you've spent 8 or 9 years with these characters, or many, many decades if you've read them over and over again. And a moment where Dream is telling Lucienne how much she means to him and thanking her for everything that she's done, where he's praising Corinthian for becoming the person that he's become. Those moments are really big moments when he's thanking Matthew, or when Matthew's saying he will sacrifice himself to stay with his Lord. He doesn't care if he will die at the same time. He's going to go with him. Those are all really big, really impactful moments. And I think they are served very well here in the episode.
I think so. I mean, I really like all these goodbyes, to be honest. I do like the fact that, I like that Lucienne is, it's an opportunity for me to say thank you for everything, always.
Yeah.
That's his closest confidant, above the family, and Matthew is one of the others, and Matthew's response is different, in the sense that Morpheus wants to send them away somewhere so that they are safe.
Yeah.
That's how, as an Endless, he's changed, but Matthew wants to stay with him and go to finish this. They have absolute faith in Morpheus resolving this in some way. And so, the goodbyes are great. It's also tinged with tragedy, with what's to come. And I do like it when Morpheus says, well, I must confront the fates and prepare for all eventualities. And again, a bit like with Cain at the start around, well, what do you mean by attend to Lyta Hall? You have them saying, well, what does that mean? You are coming back, aren't you? Or does this mean you're not coming back? So I kind of like they kind of play with that joke again, or with the kind of the more ethereal sort of nature of Lord Morpheus's tongue, I guess.
Absolutely.
And how he speaks.
Yeah. I feel that there was a general in the British Army in World War One who's quoted as saying that he was going over the top, but he wasn't saying he was going to his death, even though he knew he was. And I feel like this is kind of the way that Morpheus is talking here. He's saying, "I'm just going off to the other end. Don't you worry about it." And they're saying, "We'll see you soon, won't we, boss? Won't we?" Yeah, sure. Yeah. He hasn't really answered my question there.
Exactly.
So I think they're trying to stop him from making these proclamations, because they all know and they all want to get a real goodbye with Morpheus, but he wants to have that moment where he's telling them not to worry about him. He wants to worry about them for once. But it is Matthew that holds on, and he's really clearly asking questions of Morpheus. He's clearly saying to him, do you expect to come back from here? And you see tears forming in Morpheus's eyes when he's saying, no, I don't expect to come back. And Matthew goes with him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. To this far edge of the dreaming where he meets with the fates, and they are fateful. It's time, they say. We can't leave until our task is done. Our avatar is ripping your world apart. You see Hippolyta sort of slicing through the earth of the dreaming, splitting it, causing a fissure to run towards the palace. So
you can see pieces of the palace falling.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Well. So I take this edge of the dreaming, this place that Morpheus is standing in. I take it that this was one of the first and earliest parts of the dreaming that he created. I would think that that's what it is. It's a tower that's in ruins, so it feels like it's an old dream, something long gone. I guess so,
yeah. I mean, that's what I thought. Yeah. It was something like that, or maybe it's something where, like with nightmares, that side of the dreaming or something is close to the nightmare part of the dreaming realm. Yeah. I don't know, but yeah, it certainly could do with a spruce up, for sure.
Merv hadn't got around to fixing that.
No, it hadn't. But I do like the fact, sort of speaking with the fates, it's almost incessant. They have a mission, they have a job, and that's what they focus on. Morpheus says you won't be satisfied with anything less, really, when he starts to realize, and dawn on him how, in a sense, this will go. I mean, he's very defiant to begin with. Take leave of my realm, he says. And ultimately, then Morpheus asks Matthew to go back to the palace in order to bring his sister Death to him. And he says, ask my sister to join me here, and you, Matthew, wait with the others. So actually having then his sister there. Again, it changes the dynamic. Does it become more faithful, dare I say it? Because she's there going, well, you could have left like your brother Destruction. There's so many things that you could have done. You don't as such need to die here. I mean, even the fact that she goes to the palace to begin with and she says, well, I'll wait here. It's like, actually the destiny is in Dream's hands. He is the one that needs to make the call. He's
beyond destiny. He's on to fate now. Absolutely.
And it's like you have him having all these feelings running through. He's feeling guilty over his son. I failed my son twice. Once when I did not help him, and once when I did. So all of this is swirling around in Morpheus's mind. He's playing it out with death in a sense. But he's, comes round to the fact that I will not let them destroy the dreaming. There is a price for what I have done. As he reaches to take Death's hand. I mean, it was just really, really nicely done, I thought. I like the fact that at the same time you have Nula effectively slaying the Avatar of the Fates, and you have Goldie in the waking world sort of turning to sand as he reforms back in the dreaming.
Yeah, that's a really cool little touch, isn't it? Actually, I love that scene with Delirium carrying or walking down the street with Goldie and then realizing nobody's seen us, and a small gargoyle flying about before, so she turns him into a balloon and then he disappears and goes back into the dreaming. I love this. Again, this is the storytelling that's so evident within the Sandman. This is Morpheus accepting his fate. He's accepting what he's done. He doesn't want anybody else to pay for it. He wants to pay for what he believes his slight is. It's not about anybody else here. It's not about whether he can get out of this or not. It's not about the 600 choices he could make. Death says to him, I've seen you lower than this. I've seen you in more insurmountable situations, and you've made decisions to get out of there. Morpheus is choosing his own fate here. That is the reason why it's not in Destiny's books. That's the reason why everything leads to this moment, is because Morpheus is saying, this is my time to die. This is the moment where the story ends. This is how it will go. And that's why he takes the hand of death. He's not there to be protected by Merv Pumpkinhead with his machine gun. He's not there to have his friends stand in front of him in a line going, don't take our master. It's not even for the Fates to put their hands on him and take him. It's for him to accept his death because he wants to. He is making his decision to do so. He says to death, I am tired. So it's almost, if you can read into it, that if he had lived, if he had chosen to stay on, that would eat him up inside and therefore eat up the dreaming. He is no longer able to accomplish the work, accomplish the jobs that he set out for himself. So he's willing to accept this is the time for him to move on.
Yes. Yeah. No, absolutely.
A really big moment. I have to just call out Tom Sturridge in this moment here. I feel so sorry for him watching these scenes as the rain gets heavier and heavier and he stands there for what must have been days on end. And even soaking. But even throws off his coat and stands there in just a shirt, and you can see him shivering in the cold rain while he's saying his lines to Kirby Hell-Baptiste, who plays Death, while he's having those conversations where you can see him shivering. I guess the dialogue was re-recorded afterwards because you can't hear a word of it in his voice. But but well done, Tom Sturridge. It's a massive scene, a massive moment, and he carried it off so well. I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really good as well. Then it goes to sort of bright white. I do like that. You have Delirium recognizing that he's gone. With Goldie turning to sand. You have Hippolyta waking up, and I mean, this I thought was, again, I really liked Hetty in this episode. I like the fact that Hippolyta wakes up, still alive. It's only her avatar that has been killed in the dreaming, slain, and she asks what's happened. And Hetty's quite matter of fact about it. It says, you got what you wanted. He's dead, the Dream King. And she inquires after her son, and Henrietta just says, there's no getting Daniel back after what you've done. And it's kind of really interesting. It almost feels, as I say, it just feels like Henrietta's been this kind of balance, this justice element here. And yeah, it's just really interesting turns of phrases that like seems quite absolute really now for both Lyta Hall as well, you know. And so I just thought that was a really interesting little part of this ending.
Absolutely, and the fact that it echoes the conversation with Morpheus, where she told Morpheus, "Don't kill Lyta Hall, or you won't be able to use Daniel as your the new Dream King when you die." And now she's just told Hippolyta that she can't see her son anymore because she killed Morpheus. So interestingly, one of them would have the outcome that the child wouldn't be able to see them again, or wouldn't want to see them again. So what an interesting way of doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
really good.
Speaking of which, that is our final point. Daniel is the new Dream King. Just touching back quickly to him as a baby in the arms of Corinthian, and then that's when he's sent off to the throne room for protection. They're all sitting there playing around with the big see-through ball. Nobody can get it to work, but it happens to touch the hands of Daniel, and he suddenly has this vision. The orb explodes in color in the same way that it did when Morpheus was remaking the dreaming after he returned from his captivity. And I love that before he left, Morpheus says to them, "Well, I had a conversation with him," and they're all kind of going, "It's a baby."
He can hardly speak. Exactly.
Yeah, but after he dies, we see Daniel appearing.
Well, adult. New Lord of the Dreaming is there.
Yes.
Like it is said, he's not Daniel anymore.
That's true.
This is the new Lord of the Dreaming. Which is really, really good. And, of course, really, really interesting because the new Lord of the Dreaming is played by Jacob Anderson, who was Grey Worm in Game of Thrones, or more recently was in Interview with the Vampire series on TV.
Louis de Pontelac, a fantastic role in that show. I've loved him for the 2 seasons that we've seen of Louis. He's been fantastic at that show, really, really good. So great to see him here. Yeah. And this was one of the things I was trying to protect John from seeing all the way back to August, I think, when the episode was released. As soon as it was, all of the vampire groups were going, "You should watch Sandman, watch the end of Sandman." And I think they even changed the picture of the Sandman on Netflix to Jacob Anderson in the robes. Luckily, John hadn't seen it up until the episode, so he was nicely surprised.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of rarely on Facebook, and if I am, it's now more for people that I really do know rather than nerdy stuff. I've kind of moved away from that, so I just missed it.
Yeah, I'm delighted. I'm
which
delighted
is
to have it
good
spoiled because I know
but even on the other stuff, I missed it, so I just missed it.
Exactly. I just know how much you love Jacob Anderson and Into the Vampire. So what a great person to take over.
Yeah, exactly. It just shows you how much the algorithm knows me, because it's like it's not throwing this stuff up at me.
Exactly.
Even though I'm looking at things all the time. So yes,
not the same.
Very fortunate in that sense.
Yeah, it was cool though. Really great to see Jacob Anderson here. I know we will get him back in the next episode for the final of the story in episode 11. Any other notes, any other points you want to talk about that we didn't mention, John, from the episode?
The only one I kind of liked was just the fact that Morpheus does rescue the Griffin. You have Wyvern and the different guardians of the palace. Yeah. And Nula's boon is for Morpheus to return to the dreaming, and he gets back just in time to kind of save the elderly Griffin, who's kind of been aged by the words of the fates. And I like that. I kind of enjoyed just seeing that human, dare I say it, side of Morpheus, because I think one of the main aspects here in this second season is the notion that there has been a change about the Dream King. And then to some extent, it's how is that embodied in the chats that he's had with Daniel? Yeah. If at all.
If at all.
So it'll be really interesting. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I guess we'll find out in the next episode.
Definitely.
John, overall, what do you think of episode 10 of season 2 of The Sandman?
I really, really enjoyed this. Give it 4.5 unkindly nightmares out of 5. I just thought it was really well done. Quite short, but nice and sweet. And I think, again, you could probably see episode 10 and 11 as a single episode. And it's just really, really well done.
Absolutely, absolutely. Fantastic. Let's find out what some of our fellow dreamers thought with our feedback on this episode. They sent their emails into feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com or popped on over to our Facebook group at facebook.com/group/tvpodcastindustries. There are posts up there with all of our spoiler posts for all the other shows that we're covering, but we know it's been a while since some of them put their thoughts in there for The Sandman, so they may not remember what they put in there. But first up, we got an email in from Coffee and Vodka with his thoughts on episode 10. He says, "Greetings, fellow done and dusted defenders. The dream is dead. Long live the dream. All the feels as this reconstructed telling of the last tale of Morpheus comes to an end. So much lush and melancholy beauty, but what else would you expect in the dreaming and the death of her master? The menace of Lyta and the kindly ones, now there's a band name, was undeniable in every sense of the word. Save for that of a too late delivered sword swing, Death and Dream's final conversation was every bit as affecting as the source material, and Daniel cut a fine figure of a new member of the Endless. Finally, Delirium and Barnabas are back together again, so there's that. Short of writing a eulogy, this was a flawlessly acted, produced and presented gloomy feast for the senses. 5 outgunned pumpkins, wages of kindness, unglamorous beheadings, and sated fates out of 5. Peace and take care. Coffee and Vodka."
Great stuff, Coffee and Vodka. Yes, that would be a good band, Lyta and the Kindly Ones. This was as well, I think, really just nicely done in terms of the last tale of Morpheus. I mean, for someone who's not read the comics, I didn't think he was going to die. So he is dead here now, short of anything miraculous happening in episode 11. Then, Or just the fact that there is an eternity about the Endless Ones, hence the name, that, there is this sense of, that is kind of a hard full stop here, So I liked it for that as well, that it had that notion to do that, as I say. Really well told. I think the whole series has had a melancholic beauty to it.
Definitely.
And a lush gloom, in a sense, to it.
Absolutely.
So, really totally agree with you there, Coffee and Vodka.
Absolutely.
Good stuff.
Thanks so much, Coffee and Vodka.
Yeah, thanks, Coffee and Vodka. Over on Facebook, Dr. Bob Phillips says, "What? No, but what? Didn't believe it would happen, or at least not without the end of the Endless, but Dream is gone. It's like the Queen all over again. At least it's not a Prince Charles ascending to the throne. And that Dan Dream, who is differently dreamy, has Super Fairy, the original murderer, iBoy, Librarian, and Matt Crow to help him build new worlds. And Delirium has a doggy back. Good Barnabas." Excellent, Dr. Bob. Yeah, completely agree. I was a no but, yes but, no but, yes but, no but, yes but as well.
I love that Nula's Super Fairy and Cain is the original murderer. iBoy, I guess, then is going to be Corinthian too, right? And Librarian, of course, is
Lucienne, and Matt Crow is Matthew the Crow.
Yeah. That last one's pretty obvious. Excellent. Thanks, Dr. Bob.
Thanks, Dr. Bob.
Also on Facebook, Cassandra Leanne says this season has been so beautifully done. The audible version ends at the funeral procession, and I've just hit that point in the comics, so I had an idea what was coming, but need to read on to see how they adapted. Was definitely not expecting Louis to show up as grown Daniel New Dream. Massive squeal when he did, as I'm a huge Interview with the Vampire fan as well. Excellent. Thanks, Cassandra.
Excellent, Cassandra. Yes, I think there were lots of squeals. What with Jacob Anderson showing up as the new dreamy dream, as Dr. Bob would say.
Exactly. It's actually
Dan Dream, I guess, is what we have to call him.
Yes, Dan Dream is probably the right one.
Yeah, old Danny the Dreamer.
Exactly. Thanks, Cassandra.
Yeah, thanks, Cassandra. Finally, Paul Tianchi Lee says, "The show goes from heights to heights. The inevitability of the death of Morpheus, current incarnation of Dream of the Endless, was arguably foretold back at the beginning, aka Preludes and Nocturnes. Looking back across the full 2 seasons of the show and revisiting portions of the comics, it seems clear to me that Neil Gaiman created the framework for Morpheus to change, on top of the irony of having a character who thinks he shouldn't change, but is also in charge of something as variable as dreams, the dreaming. I have more thoughts about this, which will be in my next episode feedback. As Derek alluded to in the podcast for episode 7, we get the return of Mad Hetty, who plays a pivotal role. Once again, I can't remember how much of this was from the comics, but it's a good use of an existing character if this was invented for the show. It also somewhat explains how Hattie has managed to stay alive for the better part of 4 centuries. Also, not the last time we'll see her in the season. Also, I'm glad to see Puck realise from a few episodes ago that Loki is not a good romantic partner. Again, this is a softer and more self-aware Puck than what I remember of the comics, so good on him for getting out and inadvertently turning Loki over to Odin and Thor. I didn't discover your podcast during season 1, but I have listened now to your coverage of it and can't remember if Derek explained a bit about death's effect in the comics versus the show. I'm specifically thinking of how she has what is effectively a manic pixie dream girl vibe way before that term was invented, and the show pulls back a bit on that without losing her essential kindness and what can only be described as optimism, which is more for my episode 12 comment. Obviously, that tone wouldn't work here, but that damping down really makes her a more flexible match to her little brother, who has to make a big decision. I was much more existentially sad about this particular ending, but not as gut-punched as the death of Orpheus.
Yeah, I can see that. This does feel like a more epic ending. Orpheus's death was a real surprise and quite brutal in and of itself as well. So this moment where we see the decision of Morpheus to die, to take the hand of his sister and die, does feel massive. I think back in our season 1 coverage when Kirby was introduced as Death, I think we were more talking about the casting and how she has that lightness to her, which is similar to the comic books. But you're totally right. I remember back in the day, back in the late 80s and early 90s, the amount of people walking around with the t-shirts of Death, this cute little girl dressed up as Death, the real shocking difference from what we'd seen for decades and millennia beforehand of the skull with the scythe coming through, killing everybody. You just don't expect that this, as you described, a pixie dream girl would be walking around as Death, being nice to everybody. But they've done such a good job with Kirby in the show. She's really brought that lightness and brought that humanity and brought that caring nature of the character to life.
Absolutely. And I mean, it just speaks to, I think, Neil Gaiman's reimagining of characters, well-known stories, and how he can just refract the reflection of them in different ways and make them so good, so fresh and vibrant and updated, really, in a sense. And I mean, I think to your point, Paul, as well, totally agree around Mad Hetty. I really enjoyed her in this episode. She felt like a prophet in some respects. And I think, it was just the pivotal role that she plays, like you mentioned, just really felt meaningful to this story, in this, episode. So yeah, definitely agree with that. Great stuff. Thanks, Paul.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Paul, for your feedback. And thanks, everybody, for your feedback so far on this episode. One more to go in the main season, which we'll be talking about later this week. Please stick with us. You can subscribe to the podcast over on tvpodcastindustries.com. The main podcast feed is there for TV Podcast Industries, and also our Sandman feed, which has the Dead Boy Detectives and the first 2 seasons of Sandman there as well. We'll be back next time for the Sandman Season 2, Episode 11, A Tale of Graceful Ends.
Yes, can't wait to be back with Episode 11 of The Sandman. Until next time, of course, fellow dreamers, keep watching, keep listening, and of course, keep dreaming.
Bye.
Bye.